Warren Kinsella is joining us now, of course, president of the Daisy Consulting Group, a well-known liberal strategist and Sun News contributor. Warren, let's get right to the column that you wrote the other day about this very issue, Justin Trudeau and his stance in support of Israel.
Yeah, I think that, getting back to what Monty said, and the last question you asked, Monty, are there votes in foreign policy? And I think most of us who've worked in the political trenches would say that there's not. You know, really, at the end of the day, and in political cemeteries are littered with the remains of politicians, George Bush Sr., who thought that there were votes in foreign policy. Because most of the time, regrettably or not, people are making political decisions on the basis of their own enlightened economic self-interest. That's the biggest thing for them, is the economy. So I would say that this really comes down to a matter of principle, and that's why I applauded Trudeau and what he had done. He's been attacked by the Toronto Star and some other publications for falling in lockstep, quote unquote, with Harper, but it's the principal position to take.
And it's an interesting point that you make. A liberal is happy when they're being attacked from the right and attacked from the left.
That's the sweet spot.
So he must be doing something right, you say. But it is interesting when you talk about the sort of Jewish Canadian vote that was once solidly liberal. And I want to get your sense why that shifted over to the conservative column.
Well, some of the things are unique to the Jewish community itself. So, Jewish Canadian voters tend to self-identify as Zionist much more than their American counterparts. They tend to have visited Israel much more than American Jews have done so. But I think the big thing is that in 2004, Stephen Harper, along with unifying the Reform Party and the Conservative Party of Canada, said, I am going to go and get the Jewish vote from the Liberal Party. And he did it with a single-mindedness. And I have to say, I was an advisor to Mr. Chrétien, and I didn't think he could do it. I mean, because the Canadian Jewish vote tended to mirror what was taking place in the United States. Yeah. And he did it. And he was assisted, in no small part, by some dumb moves that the Liberal Party itself, we in the Liberal Party, made with respect to Israel and the Middle East. So he did it with his single-minded determination, but I think we helped him too.
And I think what's also interesting, looking forward now to 2015 maybe and beyond, that Justin Trudeau, there's a statement on the Liberal Party website that you talk about in your column, and it seems to be, I guess, a surprise maybe for you to see such strong support for Israel. Is that fair characterization?
Yeah, it is, and I was delighted to see it as a liberal Zionist and a strong supporter of Israel. I was very happy to see that. Now, there may be some strategy here. I was listening carefully to what Monty was saying, and while I think he also acknowledges there aren't a whole lot of votes in foreign policy, maybe depict Harper is the principled guy who's prepared to take risks and raise Canada's voice on the international stage, and Trudeau's, you can't really picture him talking tough to Putin. I think what Trudeau may be doing, and I don't know, is just turning it into a wash. Yeah. So, he has, if you look back over the past few months, he has mirrored Harper's position not only on Israel and Gaza, but on Syria, Iraq, Iran, and the Ukraine. Yeah. So he hasn't allowed any light between himself and the Prime Minister, and that may be pretty shrewd, because who wins in that kind of environment?
Yeah. I was going to say, after a bit of a misstep there on Crimea with the hockey joke. Yeah, I think that was a big stumble. He was panned for that, and I think he's come back now, and as you say, really trying to mirror the government's approach to make it a wash.
Like you look at yesterday, it's a small example of foreign policy, but the new bridge between Windsor and Detroit, and there have been appointments of, among other people, Brian Mulroney's daughter to the board of directors to this new agency that's going to oversee the bridge work. And Trudeau did something very interesting that you rarely see politicians do. He said nothing. He refused to comment on Ms. Mulroney's appointment to the board. And I thought that was quite clever and quite shrewd, because it's like, what's the upside in him going after a former prime minister's daughter? So just leave it alone. So I don't know who's advising him on foreign affairs, but I think that he's getting some good advice because he's staying out of trouble since that big mistake that you pointed out.
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting, as Monty said. I mean, now we really do have foreign affairs front and center, whether it's Canada, U.S., all over the world. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch how much of an issue this is heading into 2015. And how much it plays into the parties and their approaches to foreign policy.
Well, you were there. You've covered all these American races where even though, 4% of Americans have a passport, they are much more preoccupied with kind of the moral choice of foreign affairs than we are. And I guess it's because, you know, they've got the military might to give effect to it. But it is, I mean, it's a dangerous time in the world, but it is fascinating to see the Liberal Party under Trudeau rejecting these approaches of the past 10 years and basically go in lockstep with Harper to deny him any advantage he might be getting out of the foreign policy file.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Warren Kinsella, for coming in.
Pleasure.
We appreciate your time.